Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program. I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for the weekend. It's been a long week, I'm sure everyone, but hey, we are going to do something fun today. And hey, let's be honest, we try to do something fun every day, but today's going to be fun because we have the one, the only Mr. Ralph Bond. He'll be joining us here in just a moment, to talk all things science and technology trends, because hey, that's kind of what he does, and he does it oh so well. So if you are ready for that, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, show notes, articles, all that and more at computeramerica.com. And also wherever podcasts are heard, you can always find us there and on YouTube as well. So with that being said, no big news. Let's see real quick. Let me just, because I'm so on the ball, the 4th of July, no show. So, that should be obvious to everyone. But other than that, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and bring Ralph on and just have fun with it. So once again, he is a longtime Computer America contributor turned correspondent, where he is now our science and tech trends correspondent. So his purview, anything science and technology touches, which turns out is just about everything. So Ralph, welcome back onto the program. How you been?
I'm doing okay in the crazy news week. But again, friends, we're going to have some fun. We're going to make you feel optimistic, because what Ben and I do every Friday is we look at where we're headed in artificial intelligence, robotics, medical technology, sustainable energy technology, transportation advances, space research, physics, you name it, everything. And we give you an oasis of positive news thanks to the world of science and technology. So this is where you want to be uplifted at the end of the week.
Absolutely. And I think we're going to start off, for those who can see the video portion. Cool. It's going to help you a lot. For those who can only hear us, don't worry. Everything's going to be up on YouTube, but also we're going to do our best to keep you included. So for those who can see, you can see that our first story is going to be about, power, energy, and something that we've been talking about, again, emphasis on the trends here, where hydrogen has fast become like a very viable thing, Ralph. Like, I remember just a couple of years ago, it wasn't that, right, hydrogen was kind of this dark horse, battery, lithium ion batteries were all the rage. Hydrogen is, a steady drumbeat. So story number one might be helpful for that area.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It is a growing trend. Every week I see a little more about hydrogen this, hydrogen here, hydrogen there. And this story fits right well into that category. And by the way, folks, come out to computeramerica.com. We have what we call the show notes. And these are the items that I'm going to be talking about, along with links and pictures. So if you want to dive deeper, you can, because we're just going to give you the highlights of each of these news stories that I pick up every week and bring to you in the show. So with that said, the first story, headline, new method makes hydrogen from solar power and agricultural waste. Wow, this is a good one. Comes from Xplore, really great outlet. And here's the story. University of Illinois Chicago engineers have helped design a new method to make hydrogen gas from water using only solar power and agricultural waste, such as manure or husks.
Nice.
Yeah, well, poop keeps coming back as having a new life. Who knows? The breakthrough method, and here's the exciting part, the breakthrough method reduces the energy, meaning electricity, needed to extract hydrogen from water by, get ready, 600%. over existing methods to date. 600% less electricity needed to pull this off. We'll get into more details about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, just it really goes to show that, it's not the whole equation, but marketability, profitability, like that whole thing matters a lot. So very cool. 600, huge.
Absolutely. A little reminder here, hydrogen-based fuels are one of the most promising sources of clean energy, but producing pure hydrogen gas from water to date has been an energy-intensive process that often requires coal or natural gas and large amounts of electricity. So wait a minute, coal and natural gas, that's fossil fuels, and lots of electricity to get the hydrogen out of water. Yeah, it's not been that great of an equation so far, but wait, this is where this story comes in. In a paper for the publication Cell Reports Physical Science, very geeky, we have a link for that in the show notes, by the way, a multi-institutional team led by the University of Illinois Chicago engineer Manesh Singh outlines a new and radically less energy-intensive method for green hydrogen production. Now, quick note here, in the show notes, I give you additional tutorials about what is green hydrogen. You can dig into that if you want to, but I'll just give the quick highlights. So green hydrogen, if you're not familiar with this term, is hydrogen produced by the electrolysis of water using renewable electricity. So the equation is you create hydrogen from water through electrolysis, but the source for the energy, for the electricity, has to be renewable. That's what green hydrogen is. And again, in the show notes, you can dig more into this. I put some additional educational points in there for you to look at. But going back to the news story, the method developed by the University of Chicago, Illinois Chicago engineers uses carbon-rich substance called biochar. I'd never heard of this before. Carbon-rich substance called biochar to decrease the amount of electricity needed to convert water to hydrogen. Combine this with the use of renewable energy sources such as solar power or wind for the electricity needed, the new process can reduce greenhouse gas emissions to produce hydrogen from water to net zero. What's wrong with that equation? Nothing.
Yeah, and by the way, biochar just seems to be, so char, you can imagine charcoal, bio life, so it's just, like they said, corn husk and manure and other things, according to Google, timber slash. So it's just biomass that's been turned into charcoal. There you go.
Yeah,
that's it.
We'll find out in a moment. It's really kind of a slurry mix, but we'll get into that. So here we go. An associate professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering, part of the team, said, quote, "We are the first group to show that you can produce hydrogen utilizing biomass at a fraction of a volt. And this is a transformative technology." Now, that's very exciting. There will be a reality check coming up a little bit later here, but let's keep going. Electrolysis, by the way, is the process of splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen, and it requires electric current to do this. And to do this at an industrial scale, to make it really practical for producing a lot of hydrogen, fossil fuels to date are typically required to generate the large amount of electricity needed. Recently, in related research, not what we're talking about right here, scientists have made some progress decreasing the voltage required for water splitting by introducing a carbon source to the reaction. But these processes, developed to date, also use coal or expensive chemicals and releases carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So the idea of using biological materials to do this is not new exactly, but to date has not been successful and still requires the expensive chemicals, coal, and releases carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So that's not so great.
I could imagine using coal versus renewable energy. I can see why they kind of emphasize green, hydrogen instead of, I'm sure anything that uses coal is not the greenest thing.
Exactly right. And so the University of Illinois Chicago team modified this process. So they took the core idea of what's been done so far, they modified it to instead use biomass from common waste products. By mixing sulfuric acid with agricultural waste, animal waste, or sewage, they created a slurry-like substance called biochar, which is rich in carbon. The team experimented with different kinds of biochar made from sugarcane husks, hemp waste, paper waste, and cow manure. And when added to the electrolysis chamber, their test chamber, all five biochar varieties dramatically reduce the power needed to convert water to hydrogen. Again, reducing the electricity needed to do this. And here's the fun point. The best performer, cow dung, decreased electrical requirements sixfold to roughly a fifth of a volt. Now, reality check. This is early research. There's a long road to be gone down to get this to industrial scale and so on, but it is a very important breakthrough in the world of hydrogen. Remember, hydrogen as a fuel source, as a way to generate electricity and thus drive vehicles or whatever you want to do, its output, its byproduct or result out of the tailpipe, conceptually speaking, is water vapor. That's it. And that's why people are just not stopping in the research of hydrogen hydrogen fuel for trucks or for planes, you name it. There's so much research going on. Toyota is very big in this, for example, and the people in Scandinavia are really looking at this as well, even for large trucks. So green hydrogen is the holy grail, so to speak.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of promise there. Although I have learned, and whenever you see the images for these stories, and you see like the vent hood, the university research facilities, and they're still in the vent hood and kind of doing their thing, this is early research.
Yes, exactly.
It hasn't even made it out of the university labs, but still,
that's right.
To reduce it by that much and hopefully bring hydrogen here faster, Ralph, like the fun part about it is like it's not a completely new and alien thing. Like going from combustion engines to batteries, like that required a complete redesign of vehicles and cars and how you had, and how you kind of did everything. Hydrogen has that nice capability of still being a combustion engine. It's just pulling from hydrogen. I believe it's combustion. It might actually be combustion. But anyways, it's easier to turn or create hydrogen-powered cars from traditional like car companies than it is to make entirely new electric vehicles. So it's ready to be adapted. It's ready to go. So hopefully they can just get the price down. That's always the biggest thing. So
and in general terms, Ben, the essential thing about a hydrogen engine is using the hydrogen to generate electricity to drive the vehicle. So that's the key point here. And our next story, by the way, also is in the energy field as well.
Absolutely. This one, though, something that, hey, you can make yourself. But I think it might be a little more complicated than that, but still very cool. We all spend so much time staring at our phones and just, being around our phones. This may sound too good to be true, but still, the idea of it is very, very cool. A phone powered by carbon dioxide. Story number 2.
I couldn't resist that headline. And the headline is, to be fair, folks, again, the headline was, imagine powering your phone with carbon dioxide. That was an eye-catching headline. You got to take that with a little wink and a nod. You'll find out why in a moment. This comes from a publication called Anthropocene magazine. Very, very geeky outlet. It's fun to read. And let's get into this. It's finding ways to power the world while emitting minimal planet warming carbon dioxide. Once again, another one of these holy grails for researchers. And now, scientists at Australia's University of Queensland have made a device that goes the other way. It consumes carbon dioxide to generate electricity. Let that sink in for a second. The new carbon negative power generator, reported in the journal Nature Communications, and we have a link in the show notes. Again, come out to computeramerica.com, get the show notes if you want to dive deeper. So the new carbon negative power generator, reported in the journal Nature Communications, is only a small proof of concept laboratory scale device right now. That's reality check, okay? But it could pave the way towards a new industrial scale carbon capture method, its developers say. So the tease headline about cell phones, or smartphones rather, is a little bit of a tease, and we'll find out why in a moment. But here's how this technology works. The research team developed a device that produces electricity from the flow of charges. They start with microscopic flakes of an atom's thick material called boron nitride and coat them with a polymer called polyethylenamine. I had
Good
to
job.
practice how to say that 5,000 times. Polyethylenamine.
Nice.
And folks, by the way, I don't profess to fully understand all this stuff. Much smarter people than me can read the research paper and go, oh, yeah, I get it. But anyway, that's what they did. Now, the team embedded these flakes in a hydrogel that is made of 90% water. Then they cut the gel into 4-centimeter discs and then tested the discs in a sealed box pumped full of carbon dioxide. So again, this is small-scale laboratory testing, folks. While in the sealed box, the coated flakes soaked up carbon dioxide and produced positively and negatively charged particles. This is geeky, folks, but here's what happens. The positive ions are big and stay confined in the gel, while the much smaller negative ions move through the hydrogel channels, producing electricity. Now, reality check. A postdoctoral researcher and lead author of the paper noted, quote, at present, we can harvest about 1% of the total energy carried intrinsically by carbon dioxide. But like other technologies, we will now work on improving efficiency and reducing costs. And to wrap things up, the researchers say there could be 2 basic uses for this device if they can get it to scale up and make it practical for the real world. If the technology, like I say here, can be scaled up. First, it could be used as a portable electricity generator to power small electronics. That's where the teasing headline came in about your smartphone. I think that's a stretch, but again, could be used for a portable electricity generator, to power small electronics. Second, a much larger scale application would be to integrate the technology at an industrial carbon capture plant to produce electricity. So, there's these vacuum plants being developed around the world that are sucking carbon dioxide out of the air in a desperate attempt to try to combat climate change, right? Well, what if you took this technology and combined it at those plants and you're producing electricity from this captured carbon dioxide? Wow, that would be a great world to look forward to. So again, early research, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, obviously the opposite of what we've been doing with power plants before. Extremely proof of concept, but still the fact that they can do it at all, provides an avenue. So very, very cool. And the small scale portable electronic devices seems much more feasible, but hey, early research, you never know where it's going to go. Story number 2, story number 3, and we're on a power kick, and we're on
that's right.
for sure, and we're also on a carbon slashing kind of thing.
Yes.
So we've talked about algae on the show before. There's been a lot of different research into even just turning algae, growing algae, turning it into its own type of fuel, that kind of thing. There's Ralph, again, trends. Algae seem, just like hydrogen has a kind of a growing fan base, algae seems to be just there the same way. I think we even did a story a while ago about turning it into like plane fuel, like jet fuel, and having like planes run off it too.
Yep.
It's very promising, and story number 3 just adds to it. So let's talk about it.
Yes, it is. We are on a power trip for our first 3 stories. So the headline here is scientists found an algae-based power source with negative carbon emissions. Comes from BGR magazine or .com. And let's get into this. According to a new research paper published in the journal Energies, Canadian researchers were able to create a renewable power source using algae. The process essentially hijacks photosynthesis, which is the natural process that plants use to turn carbon dioxide into food. So they're taking advantage of this natural process. The researchers found that they were able to extract energy from algae by suspending the algae in a 2-millimeter solution with an anode and cathode chamber and separating it by a honeycomb-shaped proton exchange membrane. Okay, that's a mouthful of super geeky stuff. Very geeky. But again, I stress, come out to computeramerica.com, get the show notes. If you want to dive deeper, we have links to all of their research papers. The new power source is a completely carbon negative technology. That's the key. That's because the only byproduct it creates is water. I like that. And the entire process is started by taking in carbon dioxide. So you can see there's a related kindred spirit theme between this story and the previous one. Mm-hmm. This means it is more than just zero emission technology. It is actually taking carbon from the atmosphere and not putting more out there, very much akin to the previous story. And the entire process works by capturing the electrons that the algae create during photosynthesis and harnessing them to create electricity. Oh, wow. Okay. What? A little bit of a reality check here. So far, the researchers have only discovered a maximum possible terminal voltage of 1.0 volts from a single micro photosynthetic power cell they've created. Very, very small amount of energy or electricity. Mm-hmm. That means scaling up this algae-based carbon negative power source to actually power something like a city is going to be a different matter altogether. However, scientists believe that with enough research and development, we could see it scaled up to a point where entire cities may be able to take advantage of the algae-based power source, thus helping to cut down on carbon emissions significantly. So again, classic example of our trends theme for our shows often on Friday. Early research, let's see where it goes, but another hopeful installment in the spoke of wheel of a better future.
Yeah, I like the process towards the carbon negative, because carbon neutral has been in the news cycle for so long. We have lofty goals of carbon neutral by 2030, 2035, 2040. But Ralph, like negative carbon, that sounds a bit better. That sounds like you could actually be, reversing some damage, not just stopping further damage.
Yay.
And all of it is actually very uplifting. So there you go. Story number 3, algae once again. Story number 4. And this one, it was very different because it uses it uses the word space hairdryer, which not something you hear every day. And let's talk about how a space hairdryer might be used for post-surgery, kind of helping you.
Yeah, exactly. And friends, if you're listening to us or following along in the video, what Ben and I like to do every Friday with the last story usually is something from the world of medical technology. And the headline here is immediately caught my eye. Space hairdryer uses shockwaves to regenerate heart cells post-surgery. Now, space hairdryer is a nickname the developers gave for this handheld device. Okay, so to them, it kind of looked like a hairdryer. So that's why they nicknamed it space hairdryer. I don't know why the space part, but nonetheless, that's the nickname. So this is just a nickname. This comes from an outlet called Interesting Engineering, which is wonderful. I often do stories from them because they're so good. So let's get into this story. Researchers have developed and tested a new shockwave device that can improve heart function after bypass surgery. And in 2011, I had a quintuple bypass. So this story was personally of great interest to me. So after years of work, researchers and surgeons at the University Clinic for Cardiac Surgery in Innsbruck, Austria, have showcased the effectiveness of this new approach that combines bypass surgery with shockwave therapy using this new device, which again they nickname as the space hairdryer. The clinical trial proved shockwave therapy's ability to regenerate heart tissue. Wait a minute. The clinical trial proved shockwave therapy's ability to regenerate heart tissue as well as improve heart pumping function in patients. Wow.
That's a lot of promise.
Yes, it is. Michael Grimm, director of the University Clinic for Cardiac Surgery in Innsbruck, in a press release announcing this new system, and we have a link for that in the show notes, noted, quote, "For the first time, it is possible to improve the heart muscle substantially and persistently following bypass surgery for the first time, friends. This is a big one. Researchers have named this device, as we said before, the space hairdryer, and it's expected to be launched in 2025. So they're hoping to go out to the world next year. And they are now planning to conduct large-scale trials of this device. Now, a little refresher here, bypass surgery involves bypassing clogged arteries with a healthy artery obtained from another part of the body. This keeps the heart functioning, but it doesn't necessarily make it stronger. So basically, it's in 2011, we're going to keep Ralph alive by kind of, replacing some bad arteries here, but it's not going to make my heart stronger.
Right.
This is where the new shockwave therapy comes in. I love this part. The idea behind shockwave therapy is to deliver gentle sound waves to stimulate patients' heart muscles. Researchers believe that administering these waves during bypass surgery can awaken inactive cardiac cells and stimulate the development of new blood vessels. What? Wow.
I can see why, a device like this isn't exactly I'm going to pop in and get my heart massaged. Like, this device could only be used during the surgery. And that is something that Ralph, like keeping the heart beating during surgery. Cool. I get it. But to do essentially therapy, while you're in there, that's pretty innovative.
It's profound. It really is profound. So in a clinical study, the surgeons applied mild sound waves shortly after bypass surgery. And this process took about 10 minutes. The shockwave therapy was given to 63 people so far in Austria. So that's their small test bed, but 63 people is pretty good. The patients experienced a significant improvement in their heart's pumping function. They could walk further, had better quality of life, and their hearts pumped more oxygenated blood. Right. The group received shockwave therapy, sound wave therapy. I don't know why they say shockwave. To me, that's funny word choice. But the sound wave therapy showed the folks that got this, they had an 11.3% boost in their heart's ability to pump oxygenated blood after just 1 year. And believe me, 11.3% may not sound like a lot, but what an amazing thing to improve the heart, especially when you've been a bypass surgery patient like me. The researchers are now hoping the European regulators will give a green light to the usage of this device by the end of this year. This will pave the way for its use in patients outside of clinical trials, they hope, next year in 2025. And the findings have been reported in the European Heart Journal. And once again, come out to computeramerica.com, get the show notes. We have a link to that report if you're a super medical geek and want to really understand what's going on here. Great way to end the show.
Yeah, it's surprising that they can do, that someone thought, oh, hey, since we have access to the heart, we can do this kind of therapy. And there's a lot of weird kind of liberties taken with the article, which, space hairdryer and stuff like that and shockwave. But still, overall, like you said, an 11% boost. That is not just, placebo. That is real benefits to people who are getting this. So
yes, sir.
That's great.
Yep.
That is very, very positive. And like you said, a great way to wrap it up. But for those out there who are following along in the show notes, you may notice there's more. There's the honorable mentions. And as always, these are not worse. These are not less. These are simply, we don't have time for these, on the show, but we still want to mention it because we want to keep the show condensed and concise. And, well, if you want to find out more, think of it like extra or not even homework, because homework is work. But, hey, if you want more, Ralph has dug up even more stories. So, Ralph, let's go ahead and give the nice folks the headlines of these.
Yeah, we'll just give you the brush over the headlines. If you want to get into this, of course, the show notes will help you out. First story from sciencealert.com. What a great outlet these folks are. Headline, radical new theory gives a very different perspective on what life is. If that headline doesn't make you
think... That's tantalizing.
I've got to find out. Check this article out. It is really going to stretch your mind. I couldn't recommend it more. So go check that one out. Next one, scientists grow diamonds from scratch in 15 minutes thanks to groundbreaking new process. And remember, diamonds are so important for industrial uses and so many other uses than just cosmetics, okay? And this comes from livescience.com. That's a great story. Check that one out. Next one, Hyundai's Hydrogen truck. We talked about hydrogen clocks, 10 million kilometers total driving distance in Switzerland. So the point of the story there is Hyundai said to the world, hey, we've got this hydrogen powered truck. Again, the hydrogen used to generate the electricity to run the truck. And we've logged in 10 million kilometers to show that it's real, that it's viable. And there's a great picture.
6 million miles, by the way, for everyone who uses Imperial. 6 million miles.
There Huge. You go. There you go. That's impressive. So check that one out. That's really cool. If nothing else, the picture of this truck, it's very cool looking. And our last honorable mention, new breakthrough EV battery goes 1 million miles and handles degree temperatures of 22 degrees Fahrenheit to 149 degrees Fahrenheit. Comes from interesting engineering. And Ben, every single day, I'm seeing stories about new battery technology does this, new battery technology does that. And this is just a great example of this relentless trend around the world with science to get better batteries. And we're on our way to doing that.
For sure. I think everyone out there who had purchased a Tesla and was like, this is so great. And then, they woke up to a 0 degree day and their car wouldn't start because the battery was frozen. They're like, wow, it still needs work. An area of research, but still, hey, electric cars are, they're not going anywhere. They really aren't. And they're just getting better and better time and time again. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out more, if you want to call, let's see. I didn't get my sound effects back. If you want to call Malarkey on any of these stories, well, Ralph has you covered in the show notes. He spends a lot of time getting these together. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find everything that we talked about there. Again, over at computeramerica.com. And Ralph, I think until next week, we are done here, and I want to thank you so much for putting this together and coming on the show. Everyone else out there, thank you for tuning into the show, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Do something fun. We'll catch you again next week. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.